Hey everyone, imagine a world where the electric power meter doesn't exist, or where wireless communication is just, well, a sci-fi dream. You heard that right. What if Nikola Tesla never existed? I mean, picture this. No AC electricity, no radio, and get this, no Tesla cars zipping past us on the road today. It's wild to think about how one person's existence can have such a domino effect, shaping entire industries, lifestyles, and even our cultural references. You might be asking yourself, but how wild could that really be? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into a world where our favorite mad scientist, whose brilliance illuminated the path for countless innovations, never made his mark. So who was Nikola Tesla, and why should you even care? Born in 1856 in what's now Croatia, Tesla was the poster boy for the mad inventor stereotype. And let's be real, saying he was an eccentric genius is a bit of an understatement. This guy had a pet pigeon and a plethora of bizarre ideas about energy and the universe. Tesla is mainly renowned for championing alternating current, AC electricity, which, let's be honest, revolutionized how we power everything. Before him, we were stuck with Thomas Edison's direct current, DC, which was about as practical as using a horse and buggy in a world full of Teslas. His inventions didn't stop there. Oh no! Tesla dreamed up wireless communication, radio waves, and even the concept of the wireless transmission of energy. Now let me ask you this. What do you think would happen if one day Nikola Tesla just, poof, he disappeared from the annals of history? You'd think it might just throw a little speed bump in the timeline, right? Wrong. It's like tossing a massive boulder onto a well-paved road. The ramifications could extend far beyond his lifetime, stretching into generations of technology and innovation. Let's unravel how the absence of this genius would ripple through time and affect everything we know today. Picture this. It's the late 19th century. The world is buzzing with the Industrial Revolution, and everyone is on the lookout for the next big breakthrough in technology. Without Tesla, the war between AC and DC would have leaned heavily toward Edison's DC, and that would have serious consequences. You can already hear the fans of Tesla mournfully shaking their heads, right? Without Tesla's work, electric power distribution wouldn't have developed into what it is today. AC power allows electricity to be transmitted over long distances with minimal loss of energy. Imagine a world where cities couldn't expand beyond a certain mile radius of a power station. The American West? Probably still a frontier with towns sparsely dotted about, with wide swathes of land remaining untouched, or worse, reliant on gas lamps and campfires for light. Now, let's make this relatable. Think about how we use smartphones today, a powerful tool that connects us with anyone in the world, no matter the distance. In a world without Tesla, major cities like New York and Chicago might have electricity, but the suburbs? They'd probably still be living in the dark ages, literally. I mean, what would Friday nights even look like? Families gathering around an oil lamp or a fireplace, playing board games instead of catching the latest Netflix series. And here's the kicker. Let's talk about motors. Tesla invented the induction motor, which has become a workhorse of the modern world. Without Tesla's induction motor, many factories and machines that produce everything from cars to snacks would have needed entirely different methods to function. Maybe steam engines would have made a comeback? Can you imagine factories churning out goods at a snail's pace with steam-powered machinery? What a chaotic mess that would be. This is where the implications get really interesting. If factories couldn't produce goods at the scale we see today, economies might have developed along very different lines. Perhaps we'd still be relying mainly on handcrafted goods or local artisans, creating unique products that lack the accessibility of today's mass-produced items. Food scarcity. Imagine that. Prices for everyday items skyrocketing because production capabilities would be pathetic. Now, speaking of chaos, let's consider the impact on the budding radio industry. We all acknowledge that Guglielmo Marconi is often credited with inventing the radio, but he heavily relied on Tesla's earlier work on wireless technology. Without Tesla, Marconi might have still made waves, pun intended, but the whole idea of wireless communication could have hit serious roadblocks. Imagine if families were still gathering around the fireplace, playing charades and reading by candlelight instead of tuning into their favorite shows. The absence of radio means that news travels slowly and people could miss out on vital information for their daily lives. The Roaring Twenties, more like the Quiet Twenties. It makes you wonder, would we still be craving that instant access to news and culture, limited to whatever gossip the newspaper or local town crier had to share? But wait, there's more. The absence of radio could mean that entire cultural movements would unfold differently. For example, jazz music, emerging from the African American communities in the early 20th century, relied heavily on radio for distribution and popularity. No radio means smaller audiences and isolated music scenes. The Harlem Renaissance, likely less impactful without the amplification. Imagine a world where we wouldn't even have the rich tapestry of genres that built off of jazz, blues, and rock and roll. Fast forward a few decades, and we're standing in the 1950s. This is where the absence of Tesla really starts to manifest in ways you wouldn't expect. Let's look at one of the most groundbreaking technological advancements of the time: the television. The development of television was heavily influenced by radio technologies. Without Tesla's contributions to wireless transmission and his work with electromagnetic fields, the TV industry could have taken a much longer path, if it ever got off the ground at all. I mean, think of all the ways television transformed entertainment. Would people still be gathering around the radio, listening to their favorite shows, instead of binge-watching whatever nonsense is on Netflix today? Instead of the latest blockbuster, families might have been stuck listening to the same tired old radio dramas over and over again. Now, let's not forget about the Cold War. How do we communicate globally in a time where misinformation is rampant and paranoia is high? Without Tesla's groundwork in wireless technology, attempts to communicate over long distances wouldn't have been as efficient. So guess what? Nuclear missiles launch codes might have been sent by pigeon post. Yikes. I'm joking, of course, but how wild is that to think about? On the global stage, the space race would have changed drastically too. Imagine the Soviets launching Sputnik in 1957 without the foundational work laid down by Tesla. The need for communication satellites, tracking stations, and all the tech we relied on to understand the universe could have been slower to develop, or maybe not at all. We could have been a decade or two behind in our space explorations. The moon landing? Forget it. We might still be trying to figure out how to send a message across the ocean. And what does this all mean for the global economy? The Cold War era saw a technological arms race, fostering innovation and spurring economic development, in part because of advancements in telecommunications and information sharing. Without the technology Tesla laid the groundwork for, we could have stagnated in innovation, causing a ripple effect throughout global markets. Think about emerging tech companies and startups that could have been born from that progress. Poof, they'd be non-existent. Now let's take a moment to think about consumer technology. This is the part that always blows my mind. Without Tesla, the world of personal computing and mobile technology as we know it would be completely unrecognizable. Imagine a world where your smartphone doesn't exist. Phones are tethered to walls, and Wi-Fi? What's that? It's almost unfathomable, right? With the absence of wireless technology, things like laptops, tablets, and smartphones would have a delayed rollout. Let's say it's the year 2000. Can you picture everyone shaking their heads as they struggle to connect through dial-up still? We wouldn't even have the internet, at least not in the way we know it. Just imagine reading your morning news in physical form instead of scrolling through your phone. You might be flipping through the same paper as your neighbor. And isn't that a recipe for local drama? People would have less access to diverse perspectives and ideas, and echo chambers would be a more pronounced reality. Imagine the frustrated kids, wishing they could just hop online to play Fortnite or Connect 4 with their friends in other towns. Instead, they'd be left to play outside all day, learning about the world from their parents and the occasional visit to the local library. And here's something that really gets my wheels turning. How would pop culture change? Who runs the pop culture scene? Without the electrifying effects of Tesla's inventions, when did pop culture begin to thrive? What if it began a decade or two later? You'd have a delay in the rise of iconic music festivals, blockbuster movies, and worldwide sensations. The emergence of MTV in the 1980s brought music to the forefront, irrevocably changing how we experience and share music. Without radio technology and its precursor, the music industry might still be struggling to find its footing. And how about those electric guitars? Jazz, rock, alternative music, everything we know today might be living in a different timeline with different sounds. Would hip-hop even exist as we know it? Okay, everyone buckle up because we're diving into the modern era, 2025. Can you believe it? The world is a hyper-connected place, with technology weaving itself into the fabric of our daily lives. Let me paint you a picture. You wake up in the morning, groggy, just like every other day. You reach for your smartphone to check social media, only to find it doesn't exist. Instead, you've got a rotary phone sitting on your bedside table, and next to it, a stack of newspapers. Talk about a wake-up call. The smart home? More like a dumb home. You've got no smart speakers, no ability to control your lights or thermostat with a simple voice command. That's like living in a house that's stuck in the Stone Age. Imagine wandering around in the dark, fumbling for light switches, and wishing you had an assistant, like Alexa, to tell you the weather. The internet, as we know it today, is also wholly different, if not non-existent. Can you imagine trying to conduct business with faxes? What a nightmare that would be. Online shopping? You'd have to drive to the store instead of browsing from the comfort of your couch. Think about it. Ordering groceries? You'd need to make a list and trek to the store instead of looking up recipes online and adding items to your cart in under a minute. And don't get me started on the energy grid. Without Tesla's advancements in energy transmission, people today might still be relying on dirty coal plants or inefficient energy sources. Picture a world where solar panels aren't popular because companies are still trying to figure out how to make electricity transfer efficiently. The clean energy revolution would be delayed by decades or even centuries. Can you believe it? And speaking of the revolution, where are all the cool gadgets? Virtual reality, the Internet of Things, and even the gaming industry would be unheard of, or at the very least, not as advanced. If you want to play video games, you're stuck with a console that barely works. What a roller coaster ride from the 1980s world of gaming to the current VR extravaganza. If we can't even connect with one another through wireless tech, imagine what the gaming community looks like. You'd be playing board games with your close neighbors instead of teaming up with friends online. And all of this brings us to politics. Technology has shaped international relations and how governments operate. Can you imagine a world where drone surveillance doesn't exist? Or how about the fact that there are no social media platforms for people to voice dissent? Political movements would look drastically different. Nations could still be enacting authoritarian rules without any modern technology to challenge their power. Historical events that shaped our understanding of justice and civil rights movements would not have had the same global reach without the amplification of technology. So, when you look at the world today, it's pretty wild to think how one person, Nikola Tesla, changed everything. Without him, we'd be living in a very different, limited version of reality. It's almost surreal to consider how a simple absence could change everything, from the way we communicate to how we entertain ourselves. Thinking about it, it leads me to wonder what other pivotal figures in history could alter our reality if they vanished. Einstein, Marie Curie, they've all contributed to making our world what it is today. What do you think would happen if we erased another figure from history? Let's keep the discussion rolling in the comments. Whose legacy should we explore next? If you enjoyed this deep dive into alternate histories and how our lives would be dramatically different, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. You won't want to miss what we have lined up next. Until then, stay curious and remember, history is always shifting, one what-if scenario at a time. Hey everyone, imagine a world where the electric power meter doesn't exist, or where wireless communication is just, well, a sci-fi dream. You heard that right. What if Nikola Tesla never existed? I mean, picture this. No AC electricity, no radio, and get this, no Tesla cars zipping past us on the road today. It's wild to think about how one person's existence can have such a domino effect, shaping entire industries, lifestyles, and even our cultural references. You might be asking yourself, but how wild could that really be? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into a world where our favorite mad scientist, whose brilliance illuminated the path for countless innovations, never made his mark. So who was Nikola Tesla, and why should you even care? Born in 1856 in what's now Croatia, Tesla was the poster boy for the mad inventor stereotype.